Hello, Yes But Why listeners. This is your host, Amy Jordan. I hope all is well with you and yours. We are looking forward to the upcoming Thanksgiving holiday, which we are spending with friends at a cabin by a lake. I wish all who are listening a fun week ahead. Welcome to Yes But Why, episode 327. My talk with enthusiastic human, Jess Lonett. But first, let's talk about Audible. You guys know that Yes But Why podcast is sponsored by Audible. What that means is that if you go now to audibletrial.com/Yes But Why to get your account today, you will be supporting Yes But Why. Audible is the place to hear all the news stories, the newest thrillers, the best historical fiction, and all the podcasts they've got on there. Audible has hundreds of titles to choose from, all included in your membership. Go now to audibletrial.com/Yes But Why to sign up for your account today. Okay, so now let's talk about my guest this week. This week on Yes But Why, I chatted with my delightful friend, Jess Lonett, a cat mom, glitter enthusiast, swiftie, and improviser based in Austin, Texas. Listen in as we talk about choreographing dances, curating playlists, and appreciating artists. Jess really brings the joy to this interview. I now present to you Yes But Why episode 327, Redefining Success with Jess Lonett. Enjoy! I'm Amy Jordan, and this is
Yes But Why.
Yes, but why?
Yes, but why?
Yes, but why?
Yes, but why?
Yes But Why.
Yes, but why?
Yes, but why?
This is the Yes But Why podcast.
I always do that, but then I make you do all the talking. My favorite question to start with is about your childhood. Tell me, when you were a little kid, what were the ways that you were playing with your friends or your siblings?
Some of my favorite things to do whenever I was a little tiny child, my brother and I would do little shows in the basement for my parents. Like, I was a dancer growing up, so my brother and I would choreograph dance routines in the basement, which was always very fun, at least for us. I don't know if my parents would agree. We had like a really patriotic 4th of July one once. It was amazing. So good. And then my friends and I were really into like writing short stories in our spare time. One of my besties and I, we thought we were cool, and we got permission from the teacher in 3rd grade to like work together on this story during quiet time. And it was really a revenge story about one of my brother's friends because he wanted to play soccer instead of kickball in the backyard, and we were very mad about it.
I like that the way that you channeled your anger was through these short stories, though. Like, that was a nice way of dealing with it. And you're like writing a revenge story as opposed to hopefully not enacting it.
No, it was just like we turned him into a monster who lived in the attic, and like he was like haunting our house or whatever. And then our crushes in our class went and like saved us from him. This kid. Right. Unfortunately, the transcript of that story did get lost in like my friends' families' move, but like to this day we still talk about it. Like, we know the premise of it. It was a big deal. It was called "There's Something in the Attic."
Oh. Whoa, that's pretty intense. There's something in the attic. I love it. Oh man. May I touch upon the choreographed dances in the basement? First of all, I want to tell you and anyone who else might be listening, because I've had other guests say this too. They're like, I'm sure my parents didn't like it. No, that's incorrect. When your adorable child, even your annoying, terrible child, does a dance number for you, it is great. There is nothing better than tiny children dancing for you. Like, because it's not like you're going to the ballet. You know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
nothing snooty or boring about it. Anything could happen with this child's limbs. They are flying in many directions, and this kid usually is taking it very seriously. And a child taking something very seriously is always amusing. Like it's when my child is, you know, doing something crazy or like random that doesn't make sense or hurts him is when I'm like, what's happening right now? But very seriously, oh my God, I love it. Anything that he's super into. And when you're choreographing, like you're not just dancing. It's not like you're like, we had dance parties. No, you're like arranging, doing the same dance moves. That's like work, and I love it.
Yeah, it was we had this like little like plastic slide in our basement. And at one point during these, we flipped it upside down like it was almost a treadmill, and that was like part of the choreography. We also had like a little plastic seesaw thing that was part of the choreography. It was bless my brother. He did let me like put outfits and like makeup and stuff on him too. I mean, he would still let me do this now, present day. We might have to like bring it back at a family function, choreograph from afar, and make my mom and dad sit there and watch us. I think they would love it.
See, this also makes me now think of Monica and Ross doing the dance at the New Year's Eve party, like the choreographed dance. Like, was your dance as choreographed as theirs?
You know, it was close. I mean, they were pretty next level, but there were props and stuff, so it was pretty top tier, I would say.
Yeah, that's amazing. I bet your parents loved it. Yeah. Never be afraid. Well, children don't care, but I was going to say, don't feel shame for it later, adults. It's okay. You're, you know, someday if you happen to have a tiny child who wants to dance for you, you're going to like it. It's not, you know, if it's some random stranger's child now, even then it's funny. Like I've definitely had, I spend a lot of time in child groups now that I'm at like elementary school functions. And like when some other kid like catches my eye and is like, yeah, check me out, I'm rocking out. I'm like, yes. Like,
I love that.
Oh, it's so great. I mean,
so precious.
Confidence at a young age is amazing and just so wonderful. I love it. So did you and your brother continue to do dancing? Does he continue to dance? At what point did the dancing career abate?
Yeah, kind of. So I like to brag that my brother like copied everything that I've ever done. He is 3 years younger than me. He will admit to this too at this point. Like I played the clarinet in the band. He played the clarinet in the band. Like then he did the same fifth grade science fair project as me. We did, I was a dancer in the high school musicals, and then he was a dancer in the high school musicals too. So we both did that for a little bit. And currently he, like a couple years ago, pre-Panny, he, in his small town that he lives in Virginia, they have like a lip sync battle where they choreograph different, like these big, like over the top productions. And he was like the lead person for that a few years ago. And I think he won. In my heart, he won. I'm not sure if he actually did, but it looked really impressive.
Wow, I love it. Man, I love a lip sync contest. I was definitely in quite a few lip sync contests in my young days, for sure. Anytime there was a mall where they'd let me on a stage, I was going for it. So I appreciate that. Yeah. Also, I have this... my imagination has gone wild with what this small town's lip sync contest is all about. And the idea that like everyone in the small town like really gets into it. It's very Stars Hollow in my head, but
yeah,
it's
similar, I would say.
He actively lives in Stars Hollow. It's very wild.
It's very cool.
Oh my God, I love it. Now, did you go on and do any other writing of short stories after this one revenge piece? Was there a consistent writing of how to deal with real life as you got older?
Yeah, like I think that I was really into writing in elementary school, and I tried to like look back and figure out where that stopped or like what kind of like discouraged me, maybe. I'm not sure, but in like around this time I found years ago I found this old worksheet because my mom is a hoarder of sentimental things. But I found like an old worksheet that's like, do you consider yourself a writer? Blah, 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 blah. All these questions about being a writer. And I was just like very confidently, like you said before about kids who are confident and stuff. I was just like, yeah, I'm a writer. And then the reasoning was like, oh, because I like to write. And I thought that was a really cool way to look at things. Like if you like to do the thing, you are that thing. Like as a kid, you're not looking for like the external validation of someone else to be like, oh yeah, you're a writer because you've done X, Y, and Z or whatever. So I don't know when that kind of stopped, but I think in high school at some point it was just like not as fun for me. Like I was really into like reading and writing and stuff as a kid. And somewhere along the way it like got a little bit stifled maybe, but I did start a blog in 2010 that I have intermittently written in, whether it's like creative-y things or like random early era blog shit about goals, aspirations, music videos I liked.
Yeah.
Which is cute.
I mean, it was a very timely way to get back into writing, for sure. Blogs were a great way for a lot of us to like get back into writing at another time. Now, the idea that you like didn't do as much in high school, I feel like we don't like when they make a lot of the things work in high school, it takes a lot of the fun out of them. You know, and I feel like that, well, I feel like that's a larger lesson of like even adulthood too, where it's like sometimes when your life is this great thing that you like and that's all that you do and you make money with it or whatever, it takes the fun out of it. Like I'm sure you had to write so many papers. By the time you get to high school, they make you write everything. You know, it's like, tell us about history, write it down. Tell us about, you're taking a geography class. Could I make a map? No, we're not interested in your cartography skills. We want you to write it down. Tell us why these places are where they are or whatever. And it's like, you get tired of writing because, you know, you're doing it all the time, you know, and I feel like that can certainly suck the life out of a lot of it, you know. In fact, at this point, I'm like reflecting, thinking like, man, God bless anybody who wrote in high school, because it's like, how did you even find the time with all the rest of the writing they made you do? Whereas when you get older, you know, college and after college, there's not as much call for you to write. So I find it easier to get back into it. It sounds like the blog's not exactly something that you're doing all the time, though. Did you find another outlet to do writing, or are you in the throes of an epiphany that perhaps you need to get back into writing?
I recently tried to like resurrect my blog a little bit just for like in the same era, like blogging like it was like 2010s, which is silly and fun. And I have made one post, and actually before this I was like I should write a post about my birthday, because I used to do that, and like my birthday was like exactly 1 month ago, so like I've had enough time to reflect, so I might do that. I actually just like listened to this podcast episode about like the email and how email has evolved, and talking about like the good old days of email, whenever before it was like a chore and it was like a delight. And like I used to write to my friends all the time, like long emails about like, here's an update on my life, like what are you doing, and how it was like very reminiscent of like little like handwritten notes more than it is like a function of just like existing today. And I kind of miss that element of it too, just like expressing yourself via long form. It's all like constant via like short clips of like text messages or Instagram DMs or whatever, and not like a very thought out thing.
You know what though? I feel like there's, even just saying the words long thought out thing, it feels like too much pressure, you know, like to do that kind of thing. Like recently I've been writing letters to a friend, and the idea of physically writing something down, and I don't handwrite because I tried that and they were like, what is this? I don't know what these words are. Type it. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm typing these letters and it's like bit by bit, but it's still the same as if it were a text message. I just put the date and time. Each time I think about writing something, I pop into it. You know, I do like a week long and like pop into it. And then at the end of the week, send it out. And I find it's almost like, not that I've done the artist way. Come on. I mean, I've looked at it. I've read the book. I know what I should do. Have I done it? No, I've not done it. But it feels like morning pages, you know, because it's a period of time every day that I like, not the same time, just kind of whenever it occurs to me that something that I was like, oh my God, she'll love this. And then I'll like pop in and I'll just write a little thing like, you know, today this thing happened, or like, what if blah, 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 or, you know, sometimes. The other day I was like about to go to bed and it was like midnight and I was like literally putting my phone down, like getting into the bed, and I was like, wait. And I like came running back in here, sat down and wrote like a little quick, like 3 or 4 sentence idea, and then just walked away. And it was like, great, you know? So I feel like you can do little bits like texts without it feeling like, oh my God, I've got to write this whole like research paper on like why I like this new album. Like, no, you can write 3 sentences. If you write 3 sentences a day about something that you like or something that's good or even something bad. I mean, like, doesn't matter. I think it's kind of like after a while, because it's been a little bit that I've been doing this on a weekly basis, and it's gotten easier. You know, at first it was like, what the hell am I going to write about? What am I doing? Like, it's like, just try. And I was like, okay, I guess. Like, why? But it really has like sort of improved my ability to put ideas together. And like my fiction stuff has improved because I'm doing this other stuff. So I don't know. Just throwing that out there as a, like, it doesn't have to be amazing to go up.
Yeah, because that's the other thing too with like as a kid, I think you don't think as much about the permanence of what you're writing. Or even whenever I like wanted to get more into journaling like years ago, and I bought a journal, and like I was like, the first page, I'm like so worried about like, what am I gonna write? Is this good enough? And like no one's gonna see that. Like maybe not even me ever again. Like who knows? But I did start bullet journaling, and I like the pressure of that. Is like you can make it whatever you want. There's no wrong way to do it, and it's like more like simplified. And I would like to like expand on that, because really I'm just like mostly using it as like a to-do list and like planning things, but you can put your little thoughts and feelings along with it.
So the bullet journaling is essentially just like a list, but it's not just supposed to be a to-do list. It's also supposed to be like I feel sad today, or like I think I maybe have cramps today, or whatever.
Yeah, it's like a system where you're like, but it's in you can like, the thing for me is like not having enough space, I think, for like anticipating things or whatever, and you can like number it however you need to. And if I'm like brainstorming a thing, I can just start a new page that's like, here's a brainstorm for this, and you put it in like a little index at the front that you can reference, and then go back to just you're like, okay, this is a random like Tuesday stuff, and like so it all flows together in like this weird cool way that helps for my brain. There's like a whole book on it. I read the whole book and I was like, this is cool, but I would like to like elevate it a little bit more. But I've been doing it since like January. Some people do like a lot of like doodles or like art stuff in it, and like I thought that would be what I would do more in it, but actually I just like having the information all in there, and you like keep track of. I did this today, like one thing per day in like a one page, so you can go back and like look at your month, or it's like a cool function and also like memory keeping thing for me.
Yeah. I keep every notebook that I write in, whether it's creative or not. And I know that eventually I'm just moving boxes of things I need to throw away. Like, you know, when that Val Kilmer biography came out, or autobiography came out, and it was like, he had all this footage of himself and all this stuff. See, he needed that for his biographer or his autobiography. And it was like, yeah, people care about what Val Kilmer did. Like, nobody's calling you, Aim. Nobody's calling me to find out what jokes I was writing 20 years ago. Like, throw the notebook away, right. It's hard though. It's hard.
No,
I do use it like the bullet journals though.
Yeah. It's fun for whenever I was like, because I just moved semi recently and I was going through my old notebooks to like store them in a new place, you know, put them together. But I would flip through them and I was like, man, I am like the exact same person I was, but I feel so different. But there's so many things that are so consistent throughout my life, and like what the goals I was trying to do were like whatever. And it's like comforting and also concerning all at the same time. And I kind of like that.
I feel that. I totally appreciate that idea. You're right. That is a great way of reflecting and feeling good about it. I think it's good. I think when you can see any level of consistency in your own behavior, I think that that's helpful, you know, because I feel that too. Like I'll look back and be like, oh yeah, I've always been this way. And it like helps me deal. Like if I'm in a moment where I'm like, why am I always like this? And then I like find some example of me like 15 years ago being exactly that. I'm like, oh, well, that's just who I am. Like, okay. And it's not one of those things where it's like, I haven't grown and changed. Like, that's not the point. The point is like that your personality processes things this way. The things that are most important to you are always the same thing. Like, and it's nice to go back and find out what those things are when you're feeling particularly lost. And that happens a lot, I think, you know?
It is. Whenever I was a little dumb 21-year-old, I got a tattoo that said adventure on it because I was like really scared of being like old and boring. And and then I turned like, I don't know, 25 maybe. And I was like, girl, like calm down. Like you're not going to ever be old and boring. And so I did get that tattoo covered up. I like to call it my white girl tattoo. Because, oh yeah, it was also written in Celtic. So it said adventure, but in Celtic, my little Irish heritage. And I was like, this is mortifying. And I got it covered up.
Like with a new tattoo? Like with a different thing? Oh my God, I love it. Now I want you to, do you have a photo of the adventure tattoo?
Oh, I absolutely do. Yeah.
You need to have a photo of whatever you covered it up with. And then in a few years, you need to cover it up again.
Oh my God, it's too big to cover it up again. I got a whole boom box on my arm now.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to be like, maybe that way it can become like a larger like evolution of who you are. You know, it's like they're all still there. Underneath the boom box is the adventure. And then like underneath the boom box, like underneath whatever else it'll be, it's the boom box. Like, you know.
It's a journey.
Yeah. Just the one spot. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I have one tattoo and it's in one spot and that's the only place I want a tattoo ever. And I recently told my husband that I was going to get the tattoo that I have covered up with a new one. And he's like, why? And I'm like, because I don't like it anymore. It's not who I am anymore. Yeah. But I do like that spot and that's my spot. So I'm just going to get it there and get it covered up. Yeah. And he's like, this seems so difficult. I was like, just, okay.
It's not. It was very easy. Loved it. It was the best.
Yeah, and why not? I mean, I'm sure it's way better than if you went in and were like, hey, could you remove this? No.
Yeah. Like, it's fine.
No.
Either would have been fun, but this was more fun.
Yeah. That seems like a fun way of commemorating things by having this tattoo. That's really fun. What's the boombox about?
Whenever I was in like fourth grade, I had this purple boombox, and it was the one that I would like record songs off the radio, and I listened to like Celine Dion and Jewel on it, and I just loved this boombox, and so I got it tattooed on my arm. And then I recently found that boombox on eBay and I bought it and I own it now. It's like home decor.
That's amazing. Oh, I love it. Does it work?
It does work. Yeah, it does kind of sound like one of those videos where it sounds like an abandoned mall.
Sure.
It sounds like that, but it does work.
Is it a tape deck?
Yeah, it has a tape and it has the radio. And I did also buy the Jewel CD or the Jewel cassette tape that I had to play in my boombox.
Oh my God, that's amazing. That's so great. It's like a complete piece with the tape inside.
Yeah, it's like, this is art. I guess I like old tech from whenever I was like a tiny child, because I also have the old Macs that had like the colors. I have like the teal one
Yeah.
that I bought off of the internet also.
Like you have the actual old computer, even though that computer does not work?
It does work. I bought it from someone on Craigslist, and I plugged it in, and there were like old photos like on the desktop. But other than that, I haven't really like, it's mostly just like an art piece on my desk, on my dresser, but it does like turn on and everything.
Sure. But like you're not using it for work.
No, I'm not using it. I'm not like sending emails or like watching YouTube on it, but I should try.
It's still got the green screen with the cursor.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Yeah. No, I like that. That's really fun. I think there's something to be said for little bits of our past that, we connect with in that way, because I find that I'm doing that myself. Though mine has taken the form of rebuying old records that I used to have as a child, but not listening to them like on a record player, but like putting them up on the wall. Right. So it's like my big album that like I had when I was a kid was the Thriller album, but like the full folded out, like 3-part situation. So when you opened it up, Michael was laying full length there for you. And I loved that. And it's tough to put in the frame, but it's beautiful. Right. And I'm like happy to have it. And when I look at it, I immediately am filled with all these memories of times that I played it and that I did my shows in the basement. It was my background music. Like I'd put that on and be like, hey, ladies and gentlemen, how's it going? That was me.
I love that.
Doing my shows in the basement. Where are you from that you have basements?
I am from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Oh my goodness. Wow. How's it crazy? I've known you for so long. I've not realized that you're from Pittsburgh. And also I've interviewed like practically half of Pittsburgh. So like, hey guys, you're going to love this. Pittsburgh native right here for you. Yeah. No, the Pittsburgh comedy scene's a great crowd. Really wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. No wonder you're so funny and talented. This makes so much more sense now. I don't know why I thought you were from Texas, but
I'm honored, and that I could pass as a native Texan. No, I think we had to, in Pittsburgh, it's so dark and gloomy that we had to do something to like entertain ourselves and make it less sad.
It's funny. I've never spent a lot of time in Pittsburgh, but everyone that I know from there is like vivacious and exciting. So I can't imagine that it's a dark, scary place at all. I mean, I can't.
It's just like the weather. It rains a lot. It's gloomy. There's like 2 sunny days a month. It is.
Sure. Those places with seasons, I'm not into it.
Yeah.
I'll take scorching heat for 6 months out of the year if it means that the rest of the time is idyllic. I'm into it.
Yeah. I recommend it.
Yeah, for real. I like living in Austin. It's a good time. So after you, so you've been working on your writing, and I also appreciate the sort of like nostalgia that we've discussed as far as like art pieces or collecting. I think that's really, really lovely. But what was the thing that happened that got you back into creative stuff? We've talked about how in high school there wasn't a lot of writing, there wasn't a lot of creating things. I know that you did dancing in the high school musicals, but what happened after that? Were you involved in theatrical stuff in college, or did you go the route of I should get a quote real job, and then how did it come around for you?
Yeah, in college, I would say the most creative group of humans that I got involved with, I did college radio. So I had a little radio show that was called Groovy Cupcakes. And then, and it was like, just like little indie rock that I was playing on the radio. And then my senior year, my future college boyfriend we would do a show together called Groovy Cupcakes with a side of killer sushi. And like, so I got really into the music stuff. I would say was like the creative, like I never played music, but I would go to a lot of shows. and is really kind of the thing that I got really into. I thought that, that my college boyfriend and I, he was like the musician and I would like work his merch table and like blah, blah, blah. And we actually had plans to move to Austin together, but then he broke up with me.
No.
Patrick, it's fine. We're still good friends. It's like very wholesome and sweet to me. Like our little pure college relationship. So cute. So that was like kind of what I thought I was going to do. But then I got really into like 30 Rock and Parks and Rec and was like, oh, I love Amy Poehler and I love Tina Fey. And I quarter life crisis and moved back to Pittsburgh because I was living in a small town in Virginia. And then he broke up with me and I was like, oh, this is crazy. And so I was working at a radio station at the time, but like a corporate Clear Channel. And I was like, I need to get out of this small town and this job. So I like quit my job and moved back home and I started taking improv classes there. And I took like 2 classes in Pittsburgh. And also while I was there, I got involved with this organization called Girls Rock Camp that also exists here, but I've never volunteered with them because my time has been busier. But in Pittsburgh, it was like one of the coolest things to be around these like creative kiddos because like you do see how, for example, they were like, hey, write us an intro, like your bio for like before you come on stage. And like the bio I'm going to give you is going to be like, hi, Jess is a cat mom and like whatever, like very like true stuff. And these kids were like, Erica was born when lightning struck a tree and like whatever. And it was just like so cool. So those were kind of like, I think the Pittsburgh experiences I had in like my quarter life crisis that I was like still getting involved in like different things and finding my little way. And then moved to Austin. I thought I was going to move here for the music industry and then got like real swept up into comedy and have been doing that ever since.
Oh, but man. You really did come like with an eye to the music scene, huh?
Yeah. I was like, oh, like I want to move to Austin because it has so much live music and like all this stuff. Like that's what I had been doing for the most part up until like, like I would go to New York City for this like college music festival for like the last few years in college. Like I've always been like a playlist, like mix CD maker. Like my friend and I every year for Valentine's Day made It Sucks to Be Single CDs. Like for 5 years on Valentine's Day, I was like, it still sucks to be single. It still totally sucks to be single. Like all of these things. So music was like definitely like my biggest thing. Yeah. Even though I like was never like creating it, I was just like surrounded by it.
Yeah, but it's almost like, it's almost like trying to say that like a painter is more of an artist than a collage artist. Like it's not, you know what I mean? Like, and there are people out there that are like famous DJs because they are like really great at maintaining a vibe, at like keeping it going. I mean, and you and I know we have definitely been at parties where the DJ is not the right person to do this. And you're like, how did you get into this? This doesn't seem to be your right path. Like,
yeah, it's very funny to me because even now, like, I think I project a very like pop fronted energy. And like, whenever I got involved at the radio station, I was like, oh, I'm not going to be like, it was like when hipsters were like, you weren't buying your clothes at Urban Outfitters. It wasn't like a brand yet. It was like, it was like earlier than that level. So I was like, oh, all these like hipster people aren't gonna like me because I'm like not hip enough because I like Hannah Montana at the same time. Like I really like this like obscure indie stuff and also Hannah Montana. But then I ended up like, finding similar women who also like those things. And they're the ones that I'm still friends with today from my little radio station days.
Well, I think one of the geniuses about your particular aesthetic is that you're just being you. You're not trying, and I appreciate the idea that, in any of our early 20s, we're trying to fit into somebody else's box. And I get that. But I think the like beauty of you now is that you like live so fully who you are. Like even the idea of buying the radio and like having that tattooed, like it like meant something to you. And it doesn't matter. Who cares if nobody else likes it? That's not the thing. It's not about them. It's about you and you enjoying that, and you know, full circle brings it back to what you were saying earlier about children who are like, why are they writers? Because they like to write. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you're part of the music scene because you liked the music. You know what I mean? Like, there are 5 guys playing guitar, but then there's 5,000 people that are at the concert, and every person in that room is part of the experience. So like your contribution to it, of like listening to it, sharing it, and letting other people know. I mean, heck, you've gotten me, I've never known certain music until like you were talking about it, or you posted something and I'm like, what's that? Okay, cool. Like, great. Like legit, I thought, because I'm older than you, right? When Taylor Swift came out, I was very much like, yeah, all right, great. I'm glad the girls like her. She seems like a solid businesswoman. Good for them. I'm not listening to that. No, I'm so sorry. And then like, I want to say you were like gushing about some specific song one day online. And I was like, you know what? If Jess likes it, I'm going to check it out because you're cool. And you have like an openness to things that are like, sometimes on the fringes. Even the idea of being an improv means that you're open to the fringes, right? And so I'm like, oh, okay, I like the fringes. Let's see. Maybe Taylor's all right. And, you know, you were right. You know, she's not bad, right? But I never, ever would have looked at it, even once, if not for your sort of positive exclamation about it. And I think that is part of being a radio DJ, part of a person who like makes mix CDs or like sends playlists to people. You've definitely made me playlists before too. Like that's the other thing. It's like music is also kind of a love language, you know, like I've made or been making or breaking relationships with guys throughout my whole life based on their music stuff. You know, they'll be like, oh, my favorite band is this. And I'm like, you know, I thought we were going to work out.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, listen, you were nice and I've enjoyed this, but we can't be together. I'm so sorry. Okay. Like, and that's ridiculous. You know, I mean, would I still do that today? Probably. But like, you know, it's important.
Yeah. I think my difference today, because I think I used to do that too. Now I'm like, I will see how they respond to what I like, and they don't have to like what I like, but if they shit on what I like, then I'm like, okay, no. Like, I get that this isn't for everyone, but you could just like that I like this thing and be cool with it. And I think that is the new barometer for humans.
Honestly, you're right, because realistically at this point in the world, like there's so many niche likes that there's no way that any of us are going to be like visually connected to any of the same things. Like there's no way that we can even know, you know. There are things that pop up. Someone will be like, oh, I love this thing. I'm like, what? This has been on for 47 years. I've never heard of it, right? Like I remember the day I found out what Doctor Who was. I was not young. Okay. It has definitely been going on as a television show my entire adult life. Nope. Whole living life, not adult life. Nope. Every year I've ever been alive, there was a Doctor Who show. Yeah. I didn't know about it. I found out about it. Oh, what's this? People like this thing? Yeah, it's a rabid fan base. What are you talking about? You've never heard of it. So at the end of the day, you're right. The only thing we can do is, the only difference in any group is, can you be cool if we don't like all the same things? Or are you going to be one of those people who's like, if you don't like my thing, we can't be friends? Which it sounds like I am, hilariously. At least with dudes and music, I guess. That's just it.
It is a barometer. Like it like says something about them. Like I'm like, do you have one woman in your favorite artist? That's literally all it takes for me to be like, okay, good. You have like Stevie Nicks, perfect, good, great. At least one woman.
Yeah. Mine is like, if we're on a road trip, because I love a road trip, I want to go on long road trips all the time. I'm down for doing the driving, but you know, you got to bring the music. And if we can't sing along together to at least a couple of songs, like it's fine if like mostly you like things I don't like, whatever, great. But if we're in the car, we've got to have the handful that we can sing together just to get through the hours, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's just required to like connect in that way. But, you know, to further continue in this little rabbit hole of like, I am like, you have to be like me, but also I respect you if you don't and you're not. Yeah. And in fact, I kind of love it more. If you know so many things that like I've never heard of, I'm like, God, I'm so impressed. Like,
yeah.
When somebody makes a full playlist, I'm like, I've never heard of a single person on this list. I love it.
It's
like
very fun.
Yeah. It's like wild to think of how many artists are out there making things. That's the other thing too. Nothing wrong with having some appreciation for hardworking artists, right? You're out there appreciating these bands. Good. They're playing. They're doing it. I mean, it's amazing. Even just the act of making it happen. You know what I mean? These days, especially, you know, it's so much harder when you see a band that like stuck together through the pandemic. You're like, yeah, they'll be good. It's fine now.
They were trying so hard,
and like they care.
Also, yeah.
That's the key. That's the key.
And it's very cool. And like you mentioned about like the people in the crowd, I recently did just go see Harry Styles, and like, yes, Harry Styles is amazing, but like being there with all of the other fans is the thing that makes the Harry Styles show special. It was just like life-changing cool. Like some of these fans had organized this like. They were passing out these little pieces of purple paper, and it was like, okay, hold this on your phone flashlight during like this one song on his set, and it's going to like change the whole vibe of, you know, the arena. And I was like, oh, do you like work here? I asked the person who was handing them out, and she's like, no, this was like fan organized. Like hundreds of fans got together in each section of the arena to like pass out these papers to like all have this shared experience. And I did cry.
Wow. Did Harry Styles know it was going to happen, or was he as surprised as anyone?
Yeah, he did not know it was going to happen.
That's awesome. How lovely is that? That's like a show back for him. You know what I mean? He's doing a performance and they put on a show back. Like,
yeah, and they were doing, they did like a different song each night of his residency here. It was cool.
I love it. That's so sweet. I love it. That's what a great way to try to interact with this person who like is giving you this lovely show and entertaining you. And it's like, we see you so much so that we've created this little way to show you this moment where we're here with you. Like, oh gosh, in the world that we've lived in, where we've been so apart from each other for a long time, you know, and there's been all that to contend with and see how that feels. Sometimes finding when groups come together with something so pure and lovely as that, it's just like, oh, good, thank you. I needed that. My heart was cold. It needed to be warmed. Like,
yes, absolutely,
for sure. Oh man, Harry Styles, so sweet. I love it. He causes trouble, I guess. So when you were doing improv in Pittsburgh, where did you take classes? Do you remember the name?
Yes, I took classes at the Steel City Improv Theater.
Nice. Wonderful. I love that. And then you came here, you wanted to do it. Did you have a radio job set up? Were you getting into music?
I found I was working at this place. I was working at ModCloth, like this online fashion retailer in Pittsburgh, and I started dating this dude, and he was my coworker, and he got laid off because they let go of all of the engineers, and then he was looking for other jobs, and I was like, hey, like if you move to Austin, I'll go with you, because he was like looking for stuff in like San Francisco and New York and LA, and I was like, but if you go to Austin, because that's where I wanted to go. We had not been dating for very long, and then we moved across the country together like 4 months, and then I'm like moving across the country with this human man, and neither of us had jobs. They're just like, sure, let's figure it out, and then we did, and then like 4 months after we moved here, we broke up, and that's when my real Austin story started, and then soon after that, I like got back into like improv here, and that's when I like made friends and did stuff. Yeah, it's a good entryway into friends. It's a great way to,
walk in and meet other people, especially if you take like a level 1 somewhere, you can connect with other people who are also new. Because some of the hard parts I find of like getting into a new scene is that you feel like everybody knows each other already. And so you're like, well, what am I coming in to contribute? What's going on? So if you take at least one level 1 or like find some sort of beginner group that you can get in on, that really helps. And it's the start of new friendships, but it's also like, it provides you that like comfort start so that like you can ease into the scene. And maybe your best friends become the people that have been there the whole time. Who knows? But, it gets nerve-wracking to walk into somebody else's party and be like, hi, what's up? I'm your cool new friend. I mean, don't get me wrong. I feel like both of us have 100% said that in our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. But like, cause I only did like 2 classes in Pittsburgh, and I wasn't like, but I was like getting pretty into it there, I guess right before I moved. And then I was like, and whenever I did it, I was like, oh, I just like people thinking that I'm funny. I was like, I didn't think about it like performing wise or whatever. It was just like, I would always also battle my brother about that. And whenever we were younger, he was like, it's just like girls can't be as funny as boys. And like, this was like probably like in our 20s. And I was like really annoyed about it. And now he like takes it all back. He's like, I was wrong. And I was like, yeah, thank you.
Of course you were wrong. Come on.
I was like, duh.
Also, the longer you spend in a comedy scene, the more you can see the nuance of comedy, to the point where it's like, even half the famous people for being comedians are not funny. Like, I'm really sorry. Now I'm a snob about it. Like, and don't get me wrong, in the larger improv world, I have realized improv comedy is such a small percentage of improv in the world. Like, doing comedy with improv is just like one style that you can do. But because that's pretty much what I've been steeped in forever, that's how I know how to do it. And so it's like, I see the strings on the puppets. You know what I mean? Like, I can't not see it. When I watch, I like watching, people send me clips of SNL sketches, or I'll watch a show, and I just have a hard time because I'm like watching the mechanics happen. Like, it's been a couple of years since I've done The Neighborhood, but it's still in my brain so hard that I can't. Like, I'm waiting for a couple more years for me to forget, so that if I'm not writing sketches every day like I was, maybe I'll kind of forget the mechanics. I mean, and I'm not teaching as much, so it's like, maybe I'll be able to watch comedy again, and not just watch it like I'm watching scaffolding. Like, it's hard sometimes where you're like counting the beats and you're like, and here we go. Like, it's too much. And don't get me wrong, I like stand-ups, but at this point, I feel like stand-ups have moved out of the 1-2 punch kind of vibe in creating their comedy sets, more than like sketch comedy is very rhythmic. Yeah. So, it's hard not to look at it and just see it. But yeah, I mean, you're in the world of improv. You've been very involved in the Austin scene all over. Has there been, clearly my experience with you was all comedy. Have there been other creations that you've made, like other, dramatic improv, or any other, like, have you done any musical improv? What are the different styles of things that you've worked on while you've been here?
I am absolutely not a musical improv. I can't sing, which is what a time. I think like most of the things that I think I do are community first. Creative is like the secondary thing. But I think like being creative with like people that you're friends with or whatever is like the reason I do it, more so than like the end result. So I've been like recently like branching out into I joined a rec volleyball team, which is like a fun random thing that is like, I think sports are very adjacent to theater and performance and stuff. It's just like a different, they use different words for things. I'm like, oh, is this an audition when it's a tryout or whatever? It's just very funny. It's like, here's our costume. You mean uniform, whatever. But just like, I think doing things like that makes it, because in the before times, I think I was doing like, some might say too much improv comedy,
Sure.
Where I didn't have the balance, or I was like too much in this space, and like having things that are like separate from that are cool. And then you like meet new fun people who you can invite to your shows because you burned out all of the friends that you already have, you know? Gotta get more people to come watch.
That's the number one reason to have non-theater friends, is so that they can come watch you do your theater, for sure.
Yeah. Also, I have been getting way more into dance related stuff. At least just watching it and like trying to do more of like, I took like a Bob Fosse dance class at like the Ballet Austin like a while ago, which was really fun. I went to a random dance competition where I knew no one and just watched, and it was like the greatest day I have ever had. And then I went and I watched the Kilgore Rangerettes. I don't know if you know who they are, but they are a very famous drill team in East Texas. They're like a very big deal. It's similar to like, I don't know if you know of Cheer, the like cheerleading show where it's like a junior college and they're like known for this thing. And so I went and watched their dance show and just like loved that so much. So just trying to like, I don't know, consume more other types of performance.
That's really great. That's really, I love that you're tapping back into this love of dance and that you're supporting them, because like, I love dance. I just think like, I don't have it in me. You know what I mean? Like, I took dance when I was little, but I've seen and watched dancers express things with their movements that I'm like, blown away. And I'm like, well, that's just not my talent, and that's okay. But boy, do they have it. Like, really amazing stuff. And what interesting, like, almost to find this little, like, not a piece of history because they're young people, I'm sure, the Kilgore Rangerettes, but like the idea that this is something that like people know this group is one of the best, you should check it out. And you like went and sought it out to see, like, that's amazing. Like, what amazing support. I'm sure they were psyched to have people like, who doesn't love an audience that like wants to be there, right?
I like fangirl. They're like freshmen and sophomores in college, and I like fangirled so hard and like met a couple of them after and got a photo, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so cool. Like, because there's a documentary called like Sweethearts of the Gridiron that's on YouTube that's like tells the history of them. Like, I think they like claim to be the first drill team in the United States. I don't know if that's true or not. You know, it's one of those things where you're like, I believe it. They claim it, and so I believe it. But it's very cool to kind of like see these different, I don't know. I love watching people do things that bring them joy.
Yes. Yes. You know what? That makes me think of when I first moved to town before I found improv. I would go to this event in town called Nerd Night. And it was an evening where people would do 20-minute or 10-minute presentations on something they really loved. And it would be all sorts of different stuff. Like, I remember one time I went and it was like on 6th Street, right? And like, it's up in the bar, and there's this guy literally doing a speech on like a battle of ships in like the 1800s, and how like it's a mystery exactly what happened, but there's all this research done, and he has like diagrams, and like he's discussing how like when they found the wreckage, they found a spot right here, and we think, now, do I care about boats? No, I do not. I do not care about boats, right? But this guy was so psyched about it that I was like, yeah, all right, let's do this. And every presentation is like that. And there's like 5 people, and they're all different, right? And you learn things you never thought you'd learn from people who are just like filled with this joy of it. Like they're like, oh my God, did you know that this boat got, and then they can't figure it out, and I'm going to help them figure it out. And it's like, wow, you love this, you know? And I couldn't get enough of it. I thought that it was such a great thing. It was a great way. It's how I would go in. I was, when I first moved to town, I was single. I was trying to meet, you know, dudes, and like meeting somebody at a place where they are excited about something is such a better place to meet somebody. You know what I mean? Even if you don't care at all about it. Like, I want to say that one of the people literally taught me about credit. Like there was a person who was like, hi, I work in, you know, credit, and I realize that a lot of people don't know what it is, so I'm going to explain it to you. And we're all like, And like everyone turns and looks at this girl who wants to explain this. And she does. And it got the whole, like that night, I feel like everyone was talking about it. Like everyone was together being like, oh, yeah, I learned this thing. Like, and probably everyone in that room improved their own personal credit because of this girl who was like, I really got into this and figured out how it all worked, and I realized that no one else knows, so now I want to go to these presentations and share it with people. And we were like, thank you. Like, amazing. What? But you're right. The joy of watching people do something they love is just so great. Yeah.
It's very cool. I feel like any of the things that I've done in my life, also, right out of college, I played roller derby for a while also, and most of that was because I wanted to have a cool name and like wear an outfit. Like you can convince me to do anything if like a fun outfit or theme is involved. Like I am in 100%. And like the thing with all of the random things that I've done, I feel like is that like I'm never like the best at any of them. I'm just barely good enough to do the thing, and I'm like happy being in that space. Like I think that it like prevents me from being held back to try these new things because I'm like not so worried about being good at them.
Well, it brings us back to exactly what we were saying first. Like at the very, very beginning, you were talking about how the beauty of, you know, Jess as a child, as a writer, was that it wasn't about the external validation of being good or bad by any empirical scale. It was because you loved doing it. It was because you wanted to do it. And the act of you wanting to do it means that's what you are, right? So any of these things, as you went through and you tried them, every new thing that you get yourself into, you are it. It is the right thing because you're trying it and you're putting effort in and you're bringing joy to it. And yeah, maybe you don't, you know, get as many points as somebody else on the volleyball team, but I bet you have the most spirit of everyone that's there.
Yes, I do. I get them amped.
Yeah, and they need that. Good time. Absolutely. Absolutely. We need that. We need people like you with the great energy that like rally everyone together. I mean, you do that too for like you were talking community first, creative second. You do that for the improv communities that you're part of. You get them excited. I've seen you, you know, drag a bunch of dudes in a troupe. Like that troupe lasted way longer than I ever thought. But it's because you were like, guys, we're doing it again. More rehearsals. We're getting on stage. Let's make it happen. And it happened, you know, and that's an important person to be. And it's great that you're it, and, you know, keep being it because people need you. They need you to have a good time. Otherwise, they're just like, this feels boring. What's happening right now? Jess enters the party. Whoa. Everything is exciting all of a sudden.
Yeah. I love a theme. I just like you can make anything a vibe, you know?
Says the woman who literally is sitting, and I'm saying this out loud because it is an audio only podcast, but she is right now sitting on a couch and the wall behind her is just like sequins and what's the word for the material that's on that wall?
They're like metallic foil streamers.
It's all covered though, like it's a whole vibe, and it's just like that's so. I mean, it's the most. I almost wish I was recording this so I could get a screenshot of this like moment, but it's just like so hilarious and great and perfect, and just like chef's kiss of exactly the perfection of the excitement and adorableness that you are.
Yeah, I think that like basically I'm like just a teen in an adult human body, I think is really my energy, but also kind of like an older woman too. Like I feel like I am going to be like really cool whenever I'm like 65. I'm just like waiting it out right now in the middle. Like this is just like, oh, I have to like get through my middle life to get to like being like the peak coolness that I think I will be.
I totally agree. I have Blanche Dubois inside of me, and I'm not in my 50s yet, so I can't quite get there. Like, I am like waiting to be some like older woman in my 50s and 60s flirting with the young men, and they're like, what is happening right now? And I'm like, that's right, gentlemen. Like, but I can't do it now. I'm too young. They're like, who's this weird middle-aged person? I'm so sorry. I'll give you 10 more years and then I will start hitting on Timothy Chalamet. You know.
I love that. It's a great strategy.
It seems right. It seems right.
It does. It truly does.
Also, wherever, I mean, I know I'm older than you, but if you're ever in an old folks home when we're older, you tell me where that is because I bet it's going to be fun.
I'm going to activity direct that like crazy. So many activities, so many theme nights. So I'm like, okay, I like to, I don't know if you were ever like you mentioned Stars Hollow, so you are a Gilmore Girls girly.
Yeah.
So like whenever I realized that I was older than Lorelai in the first season, I had like I was like, oh boy, but I can't wait until I'm Emily's age in season 1. I'm like ready. I know I'm still going to be watching it at that point. Like it's just my life through the lens of Gilmore Girls forever.
You know, I mean, whew, the lens through the eyes of the Gilmore Girls is a rough one. You know what I mean? Because who in that show is really making the right decision at any point? I don't know that anyone really does. But that's the beauty of a television show. In order for it to maintainedly continue, everyone has to kind of mess it up a little bit so that they can continue to try to fix it each new time. It frustrates me as a watcher sometimes. But then, unfortunately, that clinical writing brain in my head goes, oh, did you want her to solve the problem in the pilot? Cool. Except for they want to write more shows. So I'm like, oh, yeah, right. We watched a show recently where like literally the plot is that this woman's on drugs and she doesn't get off the drugs. There's never a time. They make you think she might. She's not gonna. It's not gonna work out. It's the whole plot of the whole show. Why would they take it away? Like, you know. Oh my God. Yeah, they got to keep going with the story and build it from there. Oh my goodness. All right. So, Jess, one last question, and then I will release you to the evening. This has been a joy to chat with you. You're a bundle of wonderfulness and sparkliness and great, and I'm so happy. Now, you mentioned we did kind of talk about this. My last question is usually about how you fill up your own cup and like come back to being ready to do creative things. Though I feel like you've given me a lot of examples of things that you do, you know, to fill up the part of you that is the community base, you know, with the volleyball, and, you know, you're definitely supporting your friends or your favorite bands and going out to concerts and stuff like that. But is there any other, you know, like, and the bullet journaling? Gosh, you have so many great things. Is there anything else amidst all of those wonderful things that you're doing to make your life more exciting that you also do?
I think one of my like low key things that I like to do is I try not to like make plans on Friday nights if avoidable, and just like make myself like a cute little dinner and try like something new, because like most of the time it's like I'm so busy and like whatever, and like the stress of going to work and like, you know, existing and doing all these things. That's one of the things that I try to keep as like a little sacred space for me. And I just like to put on like a little record on my record player, maybe some CCR or like Billy Joel or like something, whatever the vibe is, and just like having no agenda and just like vibing and like making myself cute little treats. And I try to eat dinner at my little table and like light candles just for me. And I have like some little candlesticks on my table. And whenever I started doing that, I was like, oh, I feel like I'm taking care of myself in this, like treating yourself whenever you're like alone, I think is cute without like the pressure of like, oh, this is too much level of self-care or whatever. Like, oh, it's a whole checklist. It's like, no, I'm just like making dinner and like vibing with myself.
Yeah. You're like taking a literal breath from your trying to separate your work day or your work week from the full me time that can be the weekend, hopefully. Or the weekend's probably filled with just different activities. But,
sometimes too many.
Yeah. So I like it. Making yourself that Friday night. That's smart. Somebody was just talking about how you needed to like find space for yourself, and that like if you don't find that space for yourself in your own schedule, then like you're going to get sick. Like that's why people get sick sometimes, is that like they work so hard, like boom, 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 getting everything done, and they never refill, right? That cup is just empty and they keep trying to pour it and there's nothing coming out. Oh man, that's great. I'm like, I have a husband and child, so there's not a lot of alone time, but maybe I need to find a time where that's my alone time night, right? Interesting.
Yeah.
It seems important. Wouldn't it be funny if I start going to restaurants alone and then people are like, this poor woman, she's all alone. She doesn't have anyone with her. She comes every Thursday night. She'll come to the Chili's and we just feel so sad for her. And when in reality, it's like the happiest night of my week. And I'm all like, thank God I'm alone. Like,
like I'm just vibing. I'm just hanging out. Yeah.
Oh my God. So funny.
I usually think that people who are eating alone in places are like very interesting and cool.
Absolutely. I agree.
Doing that. It's cool.
Yeah, because it does require a certain level of confidence, and there's something fascinating when you see confidence. We're all attracted to confidence. So if you do see a person that's alone, especially if they're not like, well, even if they are crying, if you're in public and you're crying and it's not New York City, like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
I always want to be like, can I help you? Like, really?
Like, it's fine. I love whenever I'm crying, if I'm going to cry and I'm around people, I like warn them that I'm okay. Like, I feel like I have to comfort them because I'm going to cry. I'm like, listen, just so you know, I'm going to cry, but I am fine. Like, please don't worry about me. And then proceed to like rage cry or something.
I hope someday you don't have to tell people it's okay for you to cry, because it is. At any point, you're allowed to have all the emotions at any time you'd like.
Yeah.
There's no rules.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No rules.
No rules, adulthood. Oh my God. Jess, thank you so much for chatting with me on the podcast and sharing so many wonderful creative thoughts. Just so many fascinating paths to finding creative fulfillment. And also, I really just love that bit that you mentioned about how for you it's community first, creativity second, because I feel like that's the case with a lot of people. And I feel like if they embrace that, or at least acknowledge it, that might help them, because there's just something great about bringing people together and getting people excited. And it's a necessary part of every community. So if that's something that you love, be that, right? So yes, I hope that some listener has been empowered to just be the pleasant, happy person and support all of their friends and not feel like bad about, oh, I'm not doing anything cool right now. It's like, sure you are. You're being there for your friends. And that's literally the coolest thing you could do.
It really is. And it like takes the pressure off of you from like, it just redefines success, I think.
Yes. Redefining success with Jess Lonett. All right. I think you may have titled your own episode. Look at you.
Oh my God.
Whoa. All right. Thank you, Jess. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
You are a star, and I'm happy that you were able to do this with me. So
it was so delightful and so fun, and it's a very cool mission that you're on, and I think it's cool.
Hopefully it continues to be a good way to connect with people and a good way to help, other people embrace being their creative selves and just, I want everyone to just be who they are. Thank you for listening to Yes But Why podcast. Check out all of our episodes on yesbutwhypodcast.com or check out all the content on our network, HC Universal, at hcuniversalnetwork.com.